Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Best Served Cold, Joe's first standalone, and the next First Law entry after the original trilogy. On this episode, we review Return of the Native and the Lion's Skin. So, let's get started.
Yay!
People. Just like Monza in the first chapter of this episode, addressing the people, Talons, we address you, the audience, to give our thanks for your continued dedication and support. We even added a new person to the guest Discord, which is pretty cool. I believe an Australian, right, George?
Yeah, we got someone in every time zone now.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. We're conquering the world.
Collecting them like
one
Pokemon.
Continent at a time. Mm-hmm. Actually, do we have anybody like in Asia?
Fuck! Shit!
Nah, yeah.
Never mind. We'll get
Wait,
there.
We're missing We're missing Asia and Africa.
I mean,
Wait,
Asia only has a quarter of the world's population, right? So,
right. Asia, Africa, and South
Well,
America.
I think Europe and Africa share the same time zone, so we covered that.
True. Okay, true, but not the same continent, though. Obviously,
That's true. Not on the same continent. That is true.
Let go of your colonialist past, George. All right, colonial past.
He's like, they're all part of the British time zone, really?
The sun never sets on the British Empire.
Yeah, I'm remaking the British Empire here. Come on.
I see George's reasoning for joining this podcast in the beginning now.
Just with a lot less exploitation.
A lot less?
A lot less.
More.
Not none, but a lot less.
Well, I want to thank you all for your continued support. George was telling us the other day that this was a good week in terms of numbers, and we appreciate that.
That means many of you are obviously not doing anything with your lives, and we really appreciate that.
We appreciate you not scaling the ladder of success. We appreciate you just devoting your time, your spare time, to us instead of earning a living or providing for your families or whatever the case may be. But yeah, just please continue to follow us on our social medias and our YouTube page. George, we've been uploading, but we took a break, right, of the episodes to YouTube.
Yeah, I think we're halfway through or something like that. It is an extremely time-consuming endeavor because
and I can't contribute in any way.
No, of course not. Yeah, because obviously, the only time we can do it is when I'm at home because it takes 20 minutes to make the video and then 20 minutes to upload it. So it is a bit of a pain in the ass just sitting there and doing it over and over, especially because you can't really do anything else when you're exporting a video. So
yeah, that's why
that's just me being lazy.
Yeah, well, then that's also me being lazy too. And then we got to plan again to set aside some time on the day like we did last time and just like kind of alternate. So we'll get those videos up for you, folks. Don't you worry. And if you would like to join the guest Discord, please feel free to reach out to us to ask for the, I don't know, password, whatever the thing is.
The invite.
For the invite. And if anybody's forgotten, we have an email address. It's just circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com. So, or you can leave for fan mail on Spotify. I have no idea how that works. Nobody's ever done it before on this podcast. I'm sure somebody's done it on another podcast. But,
I thought somebody did it once. I thought somebody did
that.
once.
What did they?
Yeah, I think so. Somebody was kind enough to leave a comment on the Spotify. I'll look it up. But
I think the comment is different from the fan. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Just if you want to join the Discord and get involved in some conversations, just let us know somehow.
Yeah, just let us know. But with that, without much further ado, we shall move on to our first chapter read through, and we start part 7, Talons. And the quote at the start of this one is, "Revenge is a dish best served cold."
Roll credits.
Ooh. By Pierre Calderos de Laclos.
I'd like to say just at the beginning here that is highly debated whether or not he actually said that.
Do you know who that is?
Well, he was an author, an Italian author, but basically, there's a lot of debate. Like a lot of people think it actually comes from Don Quixote,
Really?
but
That's interesting.
the fact that he's attributed it to this particular person is quite interesting. I don't know what that specifically says. But they actually, I've just read here. Apparently, the first actual time that comes up in English is in The Wrath of Khan.
That's crazy.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Funny enough. Maybe he chose that person because you said he's Italian, and we know Stereo is supposed to represent Italy. So
it's any old Italian. It's fine.
Yeah, true. So, and we start off this part with another flashback, all italicized font in this part, as you know. This is after Sweet Pines, I believe, right?
It seems like it's after. It gives us a little.
Yeah, it's right after Sweet Pines.
After the battle. Well, after Capriel opens its gates to the Thousand Swords as well.
Right. And so Monza, I guess, after they had defeated Salier, eviscerating, Capriel's like, we want no beef with you. So Monza had to go ride to meet Grand Duke Orso, I guess somewhere nearby, to discuss plans. And she had left Benna in charge at this time, and and Benna goes, "I love you," and she's like, "Of course you do, Benna." And then she goes, "I love you, but keep the Baelish out of town, Benna." He goes, "You can trust me." She goes, "I do trust you. Keep the Baelish out of town."
Which emphasizes the fact that she in fact does not trust him.
Right, because she has to repeat her orders. And then she meets Grand Duke Orso for breakfast. He tells her, mercy for the citizens of Capriel if they yield to me, all that stuff. She's confused by this. She goes, wow, interesting, okay. Because he's like, I want their land, not their lives. How can they obey me if they're dead? So, that's cool. That's all great. Her and Faithful Carpy ride back. And they're chilling, they're laughing, they're having a great time, apparently, until they crest the rise, and they see the smoke above the city.
Ooh.
So apparently what had happened was Benna wasn't listening. Apparently the Baelish had started it, but then the rest of the Thousand Swords didn't want to miss out on any potential looting.
They had that FOMO.
Yeah, fear of missing out, baby. YOLO. Was it YOLO? I said YOHO. What the fuck? Apparently the carnage was such that Monza got off her horse and threw up, and Faithful tried to reassure her and tell her that it's not her fault. And he says that this is the years of blood, but whatever. So they get into
that's such a thing that any of those old boys would do. That's something that Curtin and Crow would say too. I know it's spoiler, but they totally would be like, well, it is what it is there, son. Okay? Yeah. Don't take it too hard,
Don't blame
everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone does seem to be very able of justifying war crimes with just that one simple phrase, like, it was the years of blood. We did some war crimes. It was.
So Monza went to the house that they had claimed and finds Benna passed out on the bed. He had been smoking some husk, apparently. She sees the husk pipe next to him. And she drags him up, wakes him up, and Koofy smacks him, this way and that way. And then she yells at him, she told him I keep them out of the town, I told you. And he goes, I didn't know. I told Victus, I think. And then he just starts crying.
It just shows how incompetent and how childish she actually is.
And then she stops being angry, and she blames herself. She goes, her fault for leaving him in charge, which is okay. Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
I mean, why would she blame herself?
Yes, it's her fault for putting him in charge when she knows what he's like.
Yes,
and to that point, sure. But of course, in actuality, it's not her fault that he's like that.
he's just a shitty person. She goes, she could not let him shoulder the blame. He was a good man and sensitive, and would not have gone well. The good and sensitive man who also stabbed that merchant in the face. Yes.
It's so toxic.
The pillar of sensitivity. So she knelt beside him and whispered to him and said, Orso wants to give us a triumph. And so then, not too long afterwards, the rumor spread that the butcher Capriel ordered the sack of Capriel, all that stuff.
Which is fucked.
Which is very fucked up. And then, I guess that the flashback ends with the last line of like, that was the difference between a hero and a villain, a soldier and a murderer, a victory and a crime. Which side of a river you called home? Boom, 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 boom. And then we move over to Return of the Native, and we start the chapter in earnest. And this is, we start off from the perspective of Monza, and she's not comfortable. That's like the first line of the chapter. Apparently, her and the other people, Shivers, Casca, Rogan, a bunch of other people, are on their horses, and they're in a procession in Talons. They have made it back home. Well, Monza's made it back home.
Presumably, she's obviously spent plenty of time in the saddle, but I think it's to highlight the fact that they've been on the move for quite some time, because the distance between Osprey and Talons is pretty large, relatively speaking, and so I think it's meant to show that they've been on the move this whole time, going straight to Talons.
Yeah, you got to press their advantage and all that. And apparently Rogan had it in his mind to dress her up in what like a simpleton's notion of the goddess of war, an unhappy collision of shining steel and embroidered silk.
Oh my god!
I think this is Joe Abercrombie taking the piss out of video game armor here.
It's a offer the the comfort of full plate and the protection of a nightgown.
I wonder if she just got like the breast armor, like ceremoniously.
The boob armor.
Yeah, the boob armor.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it does mention here that even though it's like meticulously tailored, there is a lot more in the chest area than there was a need for.
Yeah. Apparently, according to the Duke of Delay, that's what the people wanted to see. And so the procession, it's like, the return of the conquering heroes or the arrival of the conquering heroes, depending on which side of the river you're on. And crowds have lined the narrow streets of Talons. They are here to cheer on Mercado and her return from the depths of hell. The people are chanting her name because I guess Rogan must have spread his rumors, his papers, all that stuff. I guess they did the job, right, boys?
Yeah, I think that. To be fair, it's kind of all played up as like look at all these people like praising Monza who doesn't deserve it. I would say she actually does, because like in her mind. Like, what I mean is like, Monza has gotten to the position she always has through her like grit and tenacity, right? It's how she is. I'm not saying that she plays fair or anything like that. What I am saying, from the people of Talons, their point of view, she is like super awesome, super badass. She's one of them. She's worked her way up, and she doesn't see herself as that either. And a lot of the uppers don't see it that either. But it kind of is true. It just is difficult to think about in a Joe Abercrombie universe that she is so well supported by the common people. But you know what Bias says, the support of the common people is really is much more valuable than what you would initially believe.
You need the love of the small folk.
Yes, and she definitely has that.
Folk. She definitely does. I like the fact that I actually agree with you, Harrison. Like, I think Monza, as we've just seen, like, didn't actually do any of those horrible things that people blame her for. So the fact that she's managed to persevere to this point is actually a testament to to her character, and the fact that she doesn't actually believe in her own myth in that way. is good. This is one of the reasons why I think Monza is probably one of the most moral characters in this series. Funnily enough,
she has, she's definitely got I think the whole point of showing that last chapter is the fact that the thing that she's most famed for being terrible is not actually her fault as much as she's blaming herself. Did she put Ben in charge to know what he's capable of? Sure, but she's not the one who fucking, drove the dagger into the people of Capril. I mean, she told him not to do it. She can only do so much other than kill Benna or take him out of the position of charge. Is it her fault for taking him out of that position? Sure, but he's still the one. He's still the asshole, not her. So I wouldn't say, George, maybe she's not the most moral, but she's definitely I don't know what the term would be, because moral would imply that she, wants to do good things, which she kind of does, but what is the term? Upright? I don't know what the terminology would be for that, but I agree on the principle of that she is definitely better than what everybody perceives her as.
I'm gonna be a toxic male and say she's a slut. No, I'm kidding. No, yeah, she's gotten the shit end of a stick in terms of reputation, right? During the years of blood, because as we've gotten to know pretty well by now, Benna is a piece of shit, and yeah, I will say, in terms of being. She's out for revenge, right? So in terms of being the most moral character, not so sure about that. She's the one that kept harping to Shivers about mercy and cowardice are the same, and all that. A lot of collateral damage was done because of Monza's quest for vengeance, right? However, she is very self-aware, and she knows that where she got to, a lot of it was due to choices that she didn't make or circumstances she found herself in, and now she has to adapt or die. And as they're cheering for her and chanting her name and chanting Benna's name and the names of the victories like Capril, Muselia, Sweet Pines, these places where just the day before these are, how could she do that to these places? And she's thinking about the corpses she left behind, Cantain's head, her knife in Herman's eye, even though that was all Benna, Gaba, Malthus, and his clerks, Ario, and the party goers over there at Cardades, Ganmark and his guards, Faithful, Foskar, just a bunch of corpses. And some of it she didn't regret, some of it she did regret, but it was not to cheer about for her. And she wasn't sure. I don't know. She wasn't sure about her place where she is now, and she looks back and she sees her quote unquote allies, and she sees Grand Duke Rogant, who's the king in waiting, and he's playing it up. He's like, yes. And then she looks at Shivers, where she goes, a man who turned under her tender touch from likable optimist to maimed murderer. Very true. Very true, folks. We cannot deny this.
Yes, right.
Casca winked at her, and she goes, the world's least reliable ally and most unpredictable enemy, and he could still be either one. And Friendly, who knows what goes beyond those eyes of his. And then she talks
numbers. The numbers.
Exactly. She knows exactly what's going on. She's counting the crowd.
The numbers, man. The numbers.
In his eyes, just a till, and the numbers just going up and down.
You think there's a lot of people here? There's only one way to cope. I'll count every single person here.
He's trying too. Then there's the rest of the League of 8 or 9 or whatever. Larosio, Cotarda, Patine, a bunch of people. Some niece of Cantain who's now the Duchess of Borletta, and all this stuff. And she is just kind of. She's just uncomfortable, right? She's surrounded by these people. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's not. She wanted vengeance. That's what she wanted. And some people even put vengeance in paint on some word on a statue, I believe, or on some buildings. And there, some people are also putting like strength, courage, glory, just a lot of like
never surrender, never relent, never forgive. Which I ain't gonna lie, I go I'm pretty soft for some hardcore propaganda. Like in the fuck yeah, let's go fucking rule America. America raw. I like it. I like it in like a good where credit is credit whenever credit is due. But here it's just obviously just showing the fact that the people of Talons are like they've never really liked Orso, and now at this point this is like the dream come true. This is the hero returning home to rule over their nation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was about the fact that they never really liked Orso. I think that the people just turn with the wind. You know what I mean?
That's true. I will say though, but like even that being said, like these people obviously really, really like Monza.
Well, I mean, because she's out there winning victories for Talons when she was, under Orso. She was the general, whipping ass. And then, so that brings pride to a city, I assume. That's our badass bitch. And then, obviously when Orso has to flee and go to Fontesarmo, and these people come in with like, all chivalry, then, of course the crowd's going to turn, I guess it would. Yeah. And Monza ends her perspective by understanding that basically the Snake of Talons had taken the city for her own, just as Orso feared she would. So there's something there. There's some poetry there, I would say. And then I like how we start the next perspective from Casca's, the next block from Casca's perspective. And he starts it off by saying Casca was entirely comfortable. So a nice little reverse mirror or whatever against Monza. And he's kind of like chatting it up with Shivers. And Shivers is, he's not the biggest conversationalist at this point, So,
no.
Casca is very like, the settings change, the people age, the faces swap one with another. But the applause is just the same. Vigorous, infectious, and so very short-lived. And Shivers goes, huh.
he's so dead inside. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
he's also contemplating that he's gonna try and kill Monza at this point. So he's like looking for his opportunity.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a second because Shivers, there's a lot going on in his head, but Casca is accurately pointing out how the wind shifts so much, and like yesterday's heroes are shuffled off, just like he shuffled off himself before, right? They're going to cheer for Rogan and his allies now, but just before they were the most despicable slime on the face of the world. So I guess that goes to the point that me and you were talking about, Harrison. Whereas it's like they just shift with the winds. It's not so much that they hated Orso, right? But
sure, that's a good point. Yeah. I just think that I know that I do think that like you said,
just have a hard on for Monza.
I do. In fact, I just like. She really is like, despite how Joe like to subvert expectations and subvert the standard tropes. I love how he always includes tropes in such a creative way. The trope of like in terms of the eyes of the public, in the eyes of the history, Monza is exactly that trope of somebody who is doing, you know what I mean, like a conqueror, a hero, a fighter, a common folk who rises up at her station, conquers death. And then rules Asteria. You know what I mean? Like that's what they're in their eyes. That's what they're seeing right now. Like, oh my God, she's here to save us. And even though it's tempered by the fact that yes, obviously there's an army out there and all of that. Some of that is true in the eyes of the people. It's not all a lie. And I love how well Joe balances that out, and in how things are supposed to be viewed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well put, Harrison. Well put. And Thanks. Well, yeah, no problem. And well, just back to the reading real quick. Casca, he's going on about this, right? He's still, he talks about even how himself, if he goes, like, if you look under these bills of paper right now proclaiming Rogan and Monza to be king, you'll probably find one. If you just peel it off, you'll see one of them Rogan's a, dirty shitbag or something. And he talks about the same with him. And then, Shivers goes, he says something to the point of like, people here on this land, they shift whichever way the wind, takes them. They got no weight to them. And Casca goes, look, I've traveled the entire, like, he's traveled a lot, and he's noticed that people are the same everywhere. So, I guess Shivers is under the illusion, or the at least the viewpoint, that the Northerners are loyal to, they got bones to them and all that. So I don't know. And Casca says, few people let morality get in the way of expediency or convenience. A man who truly believes in a thing like that, beyond the point where it costs him, is a rare and dangerous thing. And then, Shivers says it's a special kind of fool that takes the hard path just because it's the right one. And Shivers knows, I guess, or maybe we need to talk about Shivers by the end of this book about that, because it's like, did he really try to take the right path? Really, really? But let's see. Let's see.
Well, he didn't try very hard, did he?
No, I don't think so.
That's another conversation for another time. So basically, he Casca goes, he thinks to himself that the crowds are roaring for him, just as if he was a man worth cheering for, and not Nakomo Casca at all. Nakomo Casca.
There's another person who is incredibly self-aware. He knows that he's a shitbag, and he loves the fact that people are cheering for him anyway. I think that's excellent.
Yeah.
I think the simple dichotomy right here is the fact that Shivers is not very self-aware at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the other people we're seeing are.
Oh, definitely.
Yep. And we shift perspectives over now to somebody that's in the crowd. And this person is Shanked. Dun, dun, dun. And he's in the midst of the crowd, and people are like, there she is. Oh, and he's like, your lives are not going to change to the slightest degree, because Bonzo's on the throne now. What the fuck? Anyway, but they're cheering her to the heavens, even to the point where Shanked even almost allowed himself to hope. Oh, maybe it's the start of a great era. But he's got a dark part to play. And then apparently Vitari's next to him. She goes, what the fuck? She's looking at, what the fuck she looking at? A fucking gold candlestick. And Shank is like, oh, I think she looks good, but either way, no matter what, Shanked had his work, and he would see it to the bitter end, just like how he always did. And,
he always has a way with words, doesn't he? A golden candlestick is such a good analogy for how she's dressed.
And then we shift perspective over to Friendly, because once Monza and the procession pass Shanked and Vitari, then we switch over, and it's it's Friendly. And boys, we were right. The man is trying to count everybody.
Oh my God.
And he's panicked. He's pressed. He doesn't know what to do. And the funny thing is, but he did see Vitari and Shanked. He goes, Vitari's face jumped suddenly from the crowd beside her, a gaunt man with short, pale hair and a washed-out smile. And he's trying to get a better look at him, but then they kind of like disappeared. And then he's looking at the procession, and he had known correctly that if this had been safety, then Mercado and Shivers would have been convicts, without a doubt. But this is not safety, more the pity, and there were no rules here that Friendly understood, especially when women entered the case, because they were foreign people to him.
I like how he looks at. He takes one look at Shivers and he's like, "Yeah, he's gonna kill her."
But here's the thing: he goes, perhaps Shivers loved her, and that look of hungry rage was what love looked like.
Oh, poor Friendly.
He goes,
I think it's so.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was gonna say, Friendly knew they had been fucking eviscerating. He had heard them at it enough, but then he thought she might have been fucking the Grand Duke of Austria lately, and had no idea what difference that might make. This is the problem. He never really understood fucking, let alone love. When he came back to Talon, Sajam had told him had sometimes taken him to whores, and told him it was a reward. But start with,
he didn't want to turn it down.
He couldn't get a heart on. And then the most enjoyment he got was from counting the number of thrusts. Go ahead, Harrison.
It's just so good. I just think that I really like how Friendly is talking about. It's very clear that Shivers has a problem. I mean, Rogot sees it. Casca probably sees it and just thinks it's funny. That Shivers has an issue with Monza. Maybe not kill her, but he's got a serious issue, like the way he's looking at her. And it's such a perfect relation because I'm sure Benna did all this shit in front of her all the time. And no, in fact, he did do a whole bunch of bullshit all the time. And she either told him to stop and he wouldn't stop, or was, an asshole whenever she didn't want him to be. And he just did anyways. And she just chose to be blind to it. She is choosing to be blind to Shivers' like looks and behavior and mannerisms and all of that, just like she was blind with Benna's. And I like that. It's pretty clever.
Yeah. George, you want to add to that?
No, I'm all good.
Okay.
No, I do like the fact that this is a really strange point to put this revelation about Friendly, isn't it? Like, it's towards the end of the book. Why are you telling us this now?
I guess it confirms his autism, his Asperger's.
He's just very, very asexual and a very strange man.
He is a very strange man.
But he's friendly, so.
But he's friendly. And he goes, if Shivers did kill her, it meant little to Friendly. Probably lots of people wanted to kill her. That was what happened when you made yourself conspicuous. You can always count on Friendly just to lay the facts of the situation bare, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then we switch over to Shivers' perspective. And first line was that Shivers was no monster. He just had enough. Enough of being treated like a fool. Enough of his good intentions fucking him in the ass. Enough of minding his conscience. Enough of worrying on other people's worries. And most of all, enough of his face itching. He's tired of his face fucking itching. But he notes that Monza was right. Mercy and cowardice were the same. There were no rewards for good behavior. Not in the North, not here, not anywhere. Life was an evil bastard and gave to those who took what they wanted. So he was going to murder her pretty much just for fucking someone else. He came to that conclusion.
I love how he admits it to himself, though. That is a little bit of self-awareness there.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, fuck her.
Yep. He's thought about the different ways he would kill her. Stabbing her, cutting her, carving her. Yeah. He's he goes and he reflects on the something that the Bloody Nine had told him once, which is that love and hate have just a knife's edge between them. So he knew 100 ways to kill somebody. It was the where and when that were the problems. She was watchful all the time now, but and then plus the fact that Rogant has her protected, because he knows that some people might want to kill her, and so funny enough, it was Rogant that comes up to Shivers, like sidles up next to the horsey, and says, keep closer to her. And Shivers goes, what the fuck? And he goes, Orso still has friends out here. Agents, assassins, there are dangers everywhere. And then he goes, dangers? Everyone seems so happy, though. And then he goes, are you trying to be funny? Shivers goes, look, I wouldn't know where to begin to be funny. So he's mocking him, obviously. And he goes, keep closer to her. And you're supposed to be her bodyguard. Shivers goes, I know. Don't you worry on that. I got that. And so he does get closer to Monza. And then as he rides closer, he goes, I know what I am. He's no monster. He just had enough. And then we...
he's so sweet.
Yeah, he's so sweet. He's such a knight in shining armor.
Yeah, this is a majority of the fandom's favorite character here.
Not a knight in shining armor. I'm sorry. He's a scarred, one-eyed Northman with no armor and murder's rage fueling him. Yes. Jilted lover's rage. Okay. Anyway, we move back over to Monza's perspective, and they are now at the end of the procession, right? They are coming to this the ancient Senate house, right? And so in front of the Senate house, you could say we have three merchants. They're like senior merchants of the city, right? Or like the citizens.
They're like they're basically what are they? They're like Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, those kinds of guys.
Right. I should note though that Rubine has been nominated to speak for the citizens, but Scavier and Grulo, those two are merchants, two of their most senior merchants. And then they wanted to talk to Rogant because he's like, "What the fuck? What do y'all want?" And he goes, "Yes, we want to discuss the details of the arrangements." He's like, "Spit it out." And he goes, well, in terms of the title, we had hoped to steer clear of Grand Duchess, away from nobility. It just reminds us of Orso's tyranny. I guess they're trying to appeal to him that way.
No, that's what I mean though. Like that kind of shows that maybe that like, you know, they're trying to redo it all. Like that they don't want Orso's lineage to be reflected at all.
Well, no, because the fact of the matter comes out like a second later, because they hope something to reflect the mandate of the people. President-elect, perhaps? First citizen? And then Rubin adds that technically the Grand Duke is still technically alive. And Rogan's about to lose his shit. He is besieged 2,000 miles away in Fontesarmo. What the fuck? And he goes, but you see, understand the legalities may prove troublesome. And Rogan goes, legalities? I will soon be king of Styria, and I mean to have the Grand Duchess of Talons among those who crown me. I will be king. Do you understand? Legalities are for other men to worry on, but then they're like, but it might not be seen as appropriate. And Rogan, who, you know, for a man with a reputation that had a lot of patience, his had grown very short these last few weeks. He goes, how appropriate would it be if I say I had you hanged right here, right now? Huh? And then they were like, okay, of course. Let's just...
This is the Prince of Prudence being not too prudent here, threatening. It's the most powerful people in the city, like immediately.
You also like there's definitely like a change in his veneer, because he goes from being like the Duke of Delay to being basically essentially the ruler of Styria at this point, and you could tell he just goes from being like, oh, I gotta be smart about this, man. I'm just so smart, you know.
He wants
everything. Now he's just like, fuck you, I'm the king. Fuck you off, you know. Like, I know what I want. You know, it's like disgusting.
Yeah, he wants to be crowned. He has to be crowned first, but he needs everything to be perfect. He doesn't. He can, now that he's gonna be king, he cannot brook anyone, even like giving him some kind of back talk. How dare they? And then Rogan gets handed like a golden band, and he turns to the people of Styria. He goes, "People of Styria, I give you Grand Duchess Monscaro of Talons." And then he places the circlet on her head, and then now everyone knelt, and it's just silent. And she's like, what are they waiting for? Rogan's like, words for her to speak. I go, oh shit. But she had she's never like really done this kind of stuff before. So she goes, she starts off and she starts talking. She goes, I've never been one for speeches. Rather get to it than talk about it. Born on a and then
what a good joke, Monza.
Yeah, she goes, we'll deal with Orso first, and then the fighting's over. And she goes, peace. We all have ourselves a king, all Styria marching one way, an end to the years of blood. Try to make things grow. I can't promise you a better world. But,
huh? And they're buying it. It's like, I like how this the description of the crowd just slowly he's the old man, and he's like looking at this far away view, looking at his eye, and it's just like, oh, I remember when things were better.
And she goes, I can't promise you a better world because it is what it is. I can promise to do my best at it for what it's worth. Let's aim at enough for everyone to get by and see how we go. And then she goes, that's all. And then we switch immediately over to somebody else's perspective of somebody that we haven't seen in a couple of chapters. Well, when I say a couple of chapters, I literally last episode. Morvier.
Hey, real quick, I do want to say as well, like that the way she speaks at that speech too, like it is very very her. Like she's not like just trying to bullshit, like she's just trying to say what she thinks is right, kind of. Like she's kind of fumbling it, but like because she's being honest a bit here to the people, that is what actually is what she wants. That's exactly how she feels, and that's why they buy it. It's because it's honesty, and they haven't had that in fucking how long?
In quite some time.
Yeah,
for sure. And so we switch perspectives over to somebody that we haven't seen since last episode, so not a long time at all. But our boy Morvier. And Morvier, I guess, is in the crowd getting ready to try to kill her. And he notices, like, oh, Jesus Christ, she's covered in armor. What the fuck? So he can only take aim at her exposed face, right? Because this was, I guess, back when she was talking. and so he has a blow dart, right, like a blowpipe, and he aims and he goes, "Phew!" And then apparently she turns her head at the last second and missed and hit it like a pillar. He goes, "Damn it!" And then he goes, so he, reloaded, right? And that, and then he's ready to shoot again, but she goes, "That's all." And then the crowd broke into applause, and now they're blocking his view, and somebody's elbow jostled his blowpipe, and it went well wide and probably somewhere into the crowd. So somebody got hit with this fucking.
Yeah, somebody's just dead there.
Oh, and the guy that bumped his elbow, bumped his blowpipe, is looking around like, "What the fuck?" And then he goes, "What are you doing?" And then I like how Morvir's inner monologue is like, "Curse the proletariat." And then
I love how he's just able to completely bullshit, like baffle people with his words. It's just like, "My profound regrets, but can I prevail upon you to hold this for just a moment?" He's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, so he hands the guy the blowpipe, just puts it right in his hand. The guy's like, "What?" And as he does it, Morvir also jabs him in the wrist with the mountain needle. And he goes, "What the fuck?" And then Morvir then goes, "Thank you so much," takes the pipe back, puts it into his pocket, did this all real quick, and then the guy is kind of confused, and then for a second, then he finally starts to get angry. He grabs Morvir by the lapel of his jacket or something, and then his eyes start to get that far away look. He wobbles and blinks, and then he just kind of collapses under Morvir. Morvir is gasping under the sudden dead weight. And then he goes to try to bring him to the ground, and somebody goes, "Is he all right?" And then he sees like 6 people looking at him. He goes, "All together. Too much beer. My companion here has become quite inebriated." And somebody goes, "Enebro, what?" And then Morvir goes, "Drunk. He was so very, very proud to have this great serpent of talons as the mistress of our fates. Aren't we not all?" And he goes, "Yeah, of course."
They're just like, yeah. Even though he's being really fucking sarcastic.
Yeah. So,
oh my god.
So, but now because he couldn't do much else, but now that people kind of like were like, "All right, he's just drunk and passed out," so they like kind of like paid their attention somewhere else. So now he slips away, but now he goes, "Motherfucker!" So now he's gotta figure out like how to get this done, right? Got to kill them. But we now know this man is on the job. He's on the hunt. Because he's got a significant quantity of murder to attend to. And so he was forced to reflect once again, as he had so often, that life was rendered immeasurably easier for the comely. And we end that chapter read through. Boys, how do you rate that one?
Harrison?
It's interesting. It's pretty a long one, but it's all like I don't want it's kind of changing the vibe of it. Like, I know we've been kind of in this weird, like, the book changes halfway through, but this is where we actually get to see the change in, like, the tone and the way everything is. This feels much more grand scale with, like, the political situation and how they're all interacting with each other. And, Morvir is just, like, an assassin now, failing to do so. But I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I think I'm going to rate this one a 5 out of 9. I don't think there's anything too significant here. It's average. It progresses the plot, but yeah, I just don't think there's anything of a heavy note here other than just going through the motions.
Okay. So what you're saying is you hate to see women succeed. Got it.
That's right. The fact that Monda's in charge, despite all my other comments, she should die.
She should die.
Morvir succeeds.
George?
Oh, I reckon I'm just going to go one higher and give it a 6. I like Monza's speech. I like the parallels between Monza, Shivers, Koska, and then Friendly. I like how they all come after each other and they all have sort of elements of the same thing. They're all kind of self-aware, but not self-aware, but not aware of the situation in different ways. I think that's a very, you get what I mean. But I do enjoy that, and I just love seeing Morvir do his thing. Even if he fails all the time.
Yeah, whenever Morpheus shows up, I know I'm just gonna crack up.
I especially like how he refers to the commoners as like monkeys. He's like grunts of approval to his simian comrades. He's just so contemptible.
Where are the monkeys inside of the first song?
Yeah, they're never mentioned again.
No monkeys, but it's hilarious. Curse the proletariat.
Yeah, curse the proletariat is such a stupid fucking thing to say. It's so brilliant.
Inebriated. What? Drunk.
What about you, Jeff?
I think it's a long chapter, but like not much happens. It's a procession, and like we spent a lot of time on this, actually, more than I expected. I'm just gonna go ahead and give this a 6. I would have given it a 5, but the Morpheus just raised it up one more.
I love how they turn they turn from like what an interesting character. He's kind of a narcissist to just comedy now. It's just hilarious now.
From the start, this man has been a narcissist. He's a master poisoner. He's a great assassin. But it's so hilarious, apparently, that for all the people he's killed, like at least maybe right now, we're seeing him being like inept and but you know what? I don't think that's always. I think it's been the case at times. I guess when you're poisoning, things just have to go right. People have to eat the right food, or they have to be in the right spot for them to get hit with the dart, right? So he has to. So like the likelihood of these kind of occurrences are higher. It makes sense. So of course, and he did mention before that. Remember when Nicole Koska said that the Grand Duchess Cephaline had him poisoned, right? Morpheus goes, yeah, that was me. I was supposed to kill Koska, but apparently somehow it ended up in Cephaline's wine or something like that. He's like, fuck.
But that's one of the ones that he takes credit for.
He's got it. It's so funny. Oh man. And then and the fact that it's just so funny that he's just in a crowd of people. And he has a blow dart. He's like, my moment's just right. Oh, here we go. And then just misses. He goes, fuck. He goes like, I'll try again. All right, here we go. Oh, somebody bumps me. Oh, I cannot wait till we see what else he gets up to. So that's the end of that chapter read through. 6 from me, 6 from Georgie, and 5 fingers out of 9 fingers from our boy, the Adeptus Historical. We shall move on to our next segment, which is Best Meme of the Week. Georgie boy, this is you. Take it away.
So we have yet another Tamil Ball classic.
Yay!
Tamil Ball, as we know now, rules this subreddit.
And
the undisputed king of House of the Meme Maker. And this is the angry Homer Simpson line in bed. It's like Logan and Pharaoh banging like a pair of flatheads. Giselle's just like filthy animals.
Banging like a pair of flatheads.
Oh my god!
Funny. That is so funny. Oh, that's so funny.
Oh
sorry.
Dear!
That was a good one.
So thank you, Tamil Ball. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Tammy. Thanks. Oh man, that was good. That was really good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
That imagery banging like a pair of flatheads. Oh my god. So I'll switch over to our next chapter read through, our final chapter read through, which is the lion skin. And it's Monza writing up to Fonzo's Armo. She notes that a lot had changed since she last rode up here. You know, laughing with her brother, Bena. It was hard to believe that it's only a year ago. And then since that year, it's been quite a year. Now, a dozen of Rogan's guards follow her everywhere. She doesn't want, Rogan doesn't want to risk that Orso would have sent assassins and, killed her before he gets crowned and all this stuff. Now,
which is fair enough. I mean, he's invested quite a lot of the future into her, so
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yep, and back then she had Benna beside her. Now she has shivers, and that meant no talk or laughter. She just thinks back to what he said when he said it should have been you. And then we have she gets up to the Thousand Swords camp. She sees Victus is there on the field chair, and he goes, "Oh, the Grand Duchess of Talons, Your Excellency, if we had more time to prepare for your royal visit, we'd have done something about all the dirt." Which is funny.
And visiting a siege. What do you expect?
Yeah. In the audiobook too, it sounds so like sarcastic. It's so funny. It's like, he's like, "Oh, it's you."
Yeah.
If only we had known.
And so there's a bit of back and forth between them, and then she's gonna go look for. And so Monza wants to go up to where Casca is, where the siege is actually taking place, or at least where the plans or the logistics are being laid out and everything. She tells the guards to wait here, and they're like, but His Excellency was most."
I love how she says, "Piss on His Excellency." It's like, yes, I'm sure he'd like that.
Yeah, he will love that. He will love that. I thought you were going to do like a reedy voice for the sergeant.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. His Excellency was most.
Oh, man. So she walks up with shivers. The trenches that they're building here weren't different than the ones in Muris and everything. And like this is back when her feet had started to rot, which is weesh. And Benna had got the running shits so bad he lost a quarter of his weight. Oh, my Lord.
Yay! Fuck Benna.
She saw familiar faces from that time and everything, and she goes, "Are you sure Orso's inside Fontesarmo?" She goes, "Yep." Casca spoke to him apparently the first day, and she goes, "What did they have to say to each other?" And she goes, but she has to ask Casca. She had, and Victus told them they got the place surrounded, trenches on 3 sides, and then the 4th side is obviously the mountain, right? It's built into the mountain, and then there's pickets down in the woods at the bottom of the cliff. So they're pretty. They got him pretty well surrounded. And he's not going to try to run. Orso would sooner die rather than run, at this point. And so they start talking about like how it's whoever designed Fontesarmo knew what they were doing, because it's really hard to try to break through, right? The north side of the outer ward is the best chance of an assault, and then you try the inner wall from there. But it's just one thing between thinking and doing, right? Especially when people's lives are at stake. I
like that this is it's a fairly realistic depiction of a siege as well. It's not like exciting or there's no big fights or anything like that. It's just, we're gonna stand outside until you either starve or slip up enough that we can get in. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
I love how Victus turns and he's like points proudly at the burning tower. He's like, "We set that on fire with a catapult."
That I was just gonna talk about that. Yeah. Yeah. And then she goes, "Yeah, great. We can all go home now." He goes, "What? Something, ain't it?" He goes, "Wars are won not by one great action, but by many small chances. Weren't you always telling us that? Who was it? Stalicus?" And she goes, "Oh, Stolicus, you dunce."
I love this idea now that we're getting the picture that she was just surrounded by complete morons her entire life.
Absolutely. And she goes, "Yeah, Casca's got a plan, but I'll let you tell him. I'll let him tell you. The Captain General is going to be along. Just, feel free to just hang out here." And then he goes, "Is there anything else?" And he goes, "Just one more thing." And then she spat in his eye. She goes, "That's from Benna, you treacherous little fuck." And then he wipes his eyes, looks at Shivers, looks at her, and he goes, "I didn't do nothing you wouldn't have done. nothing your brother wouldn't have done. That's for certain. Which is, another indication about, Benna's character.
Yeah.
And then he goes, nothing you didn't both do to Casca, and you owed him more than I owed you. And she goes, that's why you're wiping your face instead of trying to hold your guts in. He goes, you ever think you might have brought this on yourself? Big ambitions mean big risk. All I've done was float with the current. And then Shivers takes a step forward. He goes, off you float then before you get your throat cut.
Shit.
What a line.
Yeah. And he had the knife that Monza had given her in his fist. And then Victus goes, oh, there, big man. Don't worry. I'm on my way. Don't worry. You two need to work on your tempers. No point getting riled up over every little thing. That'll only end in blood. And then...
He's such a little rat.
Yeah, Victus is such a conniving little shit. I fucking love him. I love the three commanders. I think they're very good. They're kind of a caricature, but they are very entertaining.
Well, you mean Indish, who took the sword thrust for Casca?
My boy!
Don't speak his name to me. I cannot bear.
Anyway, what were we doing?
Oh man! And then as Victus left, Monza realizes that she's alone with Shivers. And she goes, oh, fuck, like, she knows she spent, like, the last few weeks avoiding him, and she's got to say something. They had their problems, but he was her man, obviously. He made a point, he just shown that, instead of Rogan's. She might need someone to save her life in the coming days, and he was no monster, however he might look. And she says, Shivers, listen. And then he goes, no, you listen. I don't know what he's about to start saying because we never know. Because Casca at that time comes and interrupts. He goes, Monza, you came. And with my favorite Northman, he ignores the knife and he just grabs Shivers by the hand, shakes his hand, grabs Monza and all that stuff. He goes, I haven't had a chance to congratulate you on your speech. Born on a farm, a nice touch, humble. Even this old cynic couldn't help you be moved. He goes, oh, Jesus Christ. And she goes, oh, fuck yourself, old man. And he goes, you try and say the right thing. And then Shivers goes, some folk don't like the right thing. You ain't learned that yet? And it's like, all right, Shivers, calm down there. Jesus.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, see, I told you. He's like, I told you, Casca. She's a
bitch. Anyway. So he goes, look, come up this way so we can get a fine view of the assault. And they're like, you're attacking now in daylight? He goes, well, no, you're attacking now. He's like, well, we tried in daylight. It didn't work. Wherever is Duke Rogant? And Monza goes, he's in Talons preparing for his coronation. And Casca goes, so soon? He is aware Orso's still alive, right? And he will be for some time yet. Isn't there a saying about selling the lion's skin before he's killed? But name of the chapter. And Monza said apparently that she had mentioned this many times, but I guess he doesn't care. And he's like, look at the irony. The Serpent of Talons counseling caution to the Duke of Delay. And he's like, he's got every carpenter, clothier, and jeweler in the city busy at the Senate House, making it ready for the ceremony. So it's gonna bring to mind proud shadows of Asteria's imperial past, apparently. So he's apparently even importing 1,000 white songbirds from Thond. So like imagine like white doves.
That's the most like fucking King Charles shit I've ever
heard. He's definitely trying his best to like improve his image in everyone's eyes. Like, the king, I've got 1,000 white doves.
Yeah. And Casca's noticing that maybe things are souring between Talons and Austria in terms of Monza and Rogan. And it's just that, crowns make men act like idiots. And she goes, oh, well, I'm assuming you told him that too. And she goes, yep, but he doesn't want to hear it. And then he goes, shame, I won't be there for the crowning, I guess, or whatever. And then he goes, no. Plus, there are more concerns about some shady deal done for the dukedom of Visserine. So besides, somebody needs to keep Duke Orso company. And then she goes, oh, I hear that two of you were chatting. And he goes, yeah, no more than small talk, weather, wine, women, his impending destruction, the sort of thing. He said he would have my head. I replied I quite understood his enthusiasm, as I find it hugely useful myself. I was.
Oh, I don't know how he comes up with these fucking lines. It's so good.
I was firm yet amusing throughout. In fact, while he was, in all honesty, somewhat peevish, the siege, the siege possibly has him out of sorts.
Oh god, Costco is so fucking funny. It's stupid.
And then she asks, "Well, nothing about you guys changing sides? You changing sides?" He goes, "Look, that might have been his next topic, but we were somewhat interrupted by some flat bowl fire and an assault on the walls." And then we see that a bunch of men on ladders are ready to try to scale the walls now. And Costco gives them like a little, all right, boys, go for it. Yay! And then
but he is really good at encouraging people.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh
yeah, we saw that.
I've never seen a man so brave as thee. Blah 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 blah. Go on.
Go on.
And then he turns around, and he's like, that fucker's dead. Like that.
We saw that even from his introduction into Costco, didn't we? So I like that stayed as his like sort of backbone of this character.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And he takes them into the little makeshift headquarters, which is like a shed, really. Friendly's chilling there, rolling some dice. And I get the goat's there, right? Or is the goat outside? Oh, the goat's not even mentioned. Don't.
It's not even mentioned. No.
Take that out, George. Take that out.
I would assume he's inside though.
Yeah. So Costco sits in the Captain General's chair, and he's like, "Oh, look, the four of us all together again, like Cardati's House of Leisure. Oh, happy times." And Monza goes, "Are you sure this is the time for jokes?" He goes, "Look, unhappy times are the best times for jokes." And Shivers goes, he's looking at the walls of Fonta's armor. He goes, "You sure you think you have a chance of like carrying them?" And he goes, "What, those? You crazy? They're some of the strongest walls in Styria." And then Shivers is like, "But then why even try?" And then he goes, "It's bad form to just sit aside and do nothing. They have plenty of food, water, weapons, and worst of all, loyalty. They might last months in there. Months during which Orso's daughter, the Queen of the Union, might prevail upon her reluctant husband to send aid." And then Shivers goes, "How's watching your men fall off a wall going to help?" He goes, "It will wear down the defenders, deny them rest, keep them guessing, and distract them from any other efforts we might make."
I love the way that he explains this. That apparently this is Sazine's old method. Like, how do you get people to climb a ladder if there's a huge chance of them dying? Well, you just promise them a shit ton of money if they do. Yeah. I think this is so clever. It's like, well, if they all die, then you don't have to pay them. And then if they do it, you've just won the siege for 1,000 gold. Yeah. It's flawless. Yeah. Oh dear. And I also love the extra point of it's good for weeding out the brave men because you can't have too many of them in a mercenary company.
Yeah, because Shivers, he looks baffled when he said that. He goes, "Why would you want to do that?" And then Monza says, "Bravery is the dead man's virtue. The wise commander never trusts it." And worrying to the herd, dangerous to bystanders, potential rivals for command. And then Shivers is just like, "You people got a pretty fucking way of making war."
He says that. It's weird that he's like, "Oh, I got my pride still." He's like, blah 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 blah. But then he's all, I don't know. He's like, "That's a weird way to make war. It's not very honorable." It's like, well, bro, you realize something?
And then Monza kind of cuts through this, and she goes, "Look, you said a distraction from what?" And then a fizzing sound, and then out of nowhere, guess who appears? It's fucking Ishri.
Oh, fucking coming out of the cabinet.
Yep. And then she's already like chilling like across some crates. And then Monza goes, "Why can't you just ever say hello?" And then Ishri's like, "Where would be the fun in that?" And so then apparently she rolled something between her fingers, a little grain, a black grain, and flicked it into the lamp, and then it went with like a flash and sizzle. So, and like Shiver's like, "What the fuck?" And then Costco says that this is what is called Gurkish sugar, but Gurkish fire. That's what it is. 24 barrels, courtesy of the prophet Kalul. And then Monza goes, for a man I've never met, he likes us a lot. And then she goes, Ishri goes, better yet, he hates your enemies. So mutual loathing, all that stuff. So basically, they're going to sink a shaft deep enough, pack the Gurkish fire in, strike a spark, and then boom. And that's the idea. Apparently, that's how everyone's conducting sieges these days. And who is he to ignore a trend? Casca said.
I find it interesting that it's the Gurkish fire that has changed this, when in reality, this is like an effective way of doing a siege, even if you don't have an explosive, because all you have to do is dig a big hole under the wall.
Yeah.
And it collapses.
Well, yeah, but think about like the speed, right? Like you still have to dig a big hole, but instead the explosion causes a morale effect, a massive morale effect. These guys have never fucking dealt with Gurkish fire, as far as we know, other than maybe some if they use it themselves. But even still, that's the whole wall exploding, not just falling down. Like I think it's
and
I think that's why they're kind of pointing that out, because it goes faster now too.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and I guess they don't have to dig as far as sappers would, right? Like they could dig.
Deep.
Yeah, they could dig towards like maybe right in the middle of underneath the wall, or right at the base, and then with that explosion, just do enough damage where they can take the wall. Whereas sappers, right? Don't they have to dig like past the wall? I believe, right? And then.
Well, they wouldn't generally do that, but then they'd also like just fill the tunnel up with wood and set it on fire, because basically it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah, right. Well, this makes it much more quicker, I guess, and it's the demoralizing effect, like Harrison was saying, and shock value, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
shock and awe. So, anyway, Caesarea is in charge of the digging, the mining. And then Monza asks him, if you bring the walls down, then she just, that's easy peasy. We stormed, we overwhelmed the defenders, and then we'll have, we can carry the inner wall. There's just a lot of ladders, storm the palace, keep it traditional, and Monza will get her revenge. And then she asks, how long until the mine's ready? And then Friendly goes, 21 days and 6 hours at the rate they're going. Like, Jesus. Ishri goes, oh, shame. I love fireworks, but I must go back to the south. And then she goes, Monza says, what, tired of our company? And then Ishri goes, my brother was killed by a woman seeking vengeance. And then
Pharaoh mentioned.
And then Monza goes, those bitches find a way of doing damage. And then Ishri goes, yeah, but always to the wrong people. My brother's the lucky one. He's with God. The rest of my family that suffers now. We must work the harder. And then she goes, try not to get yourselves killed. I do not intend that my hard work here be wasted. And then Ishri was she just disappears. I swear to God. So I want to talk
literally disappears.
A woman seeking vengeance. Who could kill an eater? Right? And is a woman. Not to be sexist, but ladies, come on. Who could do that? Did we know somebody that might be pretty powerful or strong and can kill an eater? Did we see anybody say shove their fingers in an eater's jaw and rip it out? I don't. Do we recall?
Never seen it.
Never seen it.
Fake news. I heard that was fake news. Spread by unionist propaganda.
You sure that person's name doesn't rhyme with like Barrow or something?
Barrow.
So that's, I think we all know who that is, and it's pleasantly surprised to see that Pharaoh is still out and about, causing some damage.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Like,
it is.
He's so good at the Easter eggs, like better than a lot. And I don't personally think it's too much. I think he does just the right amount.
Just right. Just a woman seeking vengeance, and then it's like enough to be like, wait a minute, Ishri's the eater. Who the fuck? Like that, is that like?
Yeah. Yes.
Love that. So, and then Shivers, he points out that Costco's run out of brave men because apparently the remnants of the assault were scrambling back down. They're like, fuck this. But it's all right. They're just gonna keep doing this, and Caesaria's just gonna keep digging until finally, soon enough, they take the castle and Styria stands united, or until Orso sees sense and offers him enough to change sides again. And Monza doesn't. She's not laughing. She goes, maybe you should try sticking to one side for once. And then Casca goes, why would anyone ever do that? It's a war. There is no right side. And that ends the chapter. And that is actually very true of Casca to say.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, Casca knows the reasons why people make war are just bullshit. So,
although I wonder if he really would change over to Orso. I really wonder.
I do wonder that too. I think he acts like he would, but and Monza thinks he would because of what just happened.
Yeah, but I
actually don't think he would actually in this case.
Nah.
I think he would be stupid too, because then he would literally be on, like, against the whole rest of Styria, and he's just got the 1,000 Swords and no other army.
Yeah.
I don't think he would.
He would say that as an excuse, but really just because he loves Monza. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the end of that chapter, boys. How would you rate it?
I want to give this a slightly lower one. I would give this a 4. I like the like I said earlier, realistic depiction of a siege and kind of siege warfare, and I think that's very interesting. I like Victus being a slimy little cunt. He's brilliant. And yeah, apart from that, we don't really not much else happens. So, What about you guys?
I feel the same way about the siege and the I think it's funny how the how people react to her, and I like how she's trying to do the hard thing again, but because Casca's in charge, and they're like, okay, Monza. I find that funny, and I like how there's just always this little balance in that Joe has with Monza, where she's a badass, and then they show her that she is still just being like, a traumatized girl, and then the next scene it shows her being like a fucking hardcore leader, and then the next scene it shows her being a bitch. It's always a good balance for her character. So, but that being said, I agree, George. There's not much going on in this chapter. It's just kind of a setting up. Good depiction of a siege. Mm-hmm. Good writing, as always. I'm going to give it 4 and a knuckle, I think. A little bit lower.
Yeah. I'm going to go pretty low. I mean, it's not a throwaway chapter. And there is, good bits in it, like Victus, like you said, being a dick. Casca just being Casca. Funny moments. And we got a moment of tension of oh, is Monza going to talk to Shivers? Wait, what's Shivers going to say? And then Casca interrupts it. Oh, well. I'm going to give it a 3 and a knuckle. 3 and a knuckle. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
That's the final chapter, the lion skin. And now we'll move on over to our final segment, which is our character spot. Boys, who are we spotlighting this episode?
Well, as a fan, because we, as Americans, Jeff and I are pretty privy to corporations running things, we actually really appreciate the fact that these merchants are trying to dictate to the government how they think things should be ran, because that's how our government runs here in America. And I think that's a pretty solid depiction, and I appreciate that these guys are like, well, we believe the best thing to do is this because I have money.
But the reasoning was sound, right?
I know the reasoning is sound, but why they have that reasoning is to protect their assets. But I do like this little aspect of it, because many times this is not there has to be somebody in charge, in charge of the city while they're in this transition period. And I like that these characters are the people represented as the people who are filling in for the moment. They obviously they're kind of biased. They don't really want to be at the forefront. But they have to make sure that their interests and the interests of the city are safe. So here's what we need. And then Grogar's like, fuck you. And they're like, okay. I like the representation, because that's many times not the case inside of these stories. So. Mm-hmm.
It's good to see the sort of mechanisms of power, because when there's a change of power, the kind of things always happen. You have to deal with the kind of people that were being dealt with by the previous administration, so you kind of have to do that. But I like the fact that they literally it sounds like they're meeting for the first time, on stage, and Roko's just so fucking annoyed at them.
Yeah, because they immediately jump right into it.
Yeah, and to be fair, that is really annoying. It's just let me get in the door, fucking hell.
Yeah, I would be pretty annoyed by that too. But they make a good point. Yeah, they're wanting to dictate the terms now, though. You know what I mean? Because they know that if he gets into a position of power, then they're not going to get any choice.
Right. And honestly, the only terms that that right now that they're asking about is what are they going to call Monza, right? She's obviously going to.
Yeah.
They're propping her up to take over the city, to lead the city. And so like, okay, what do we call her? What's her official title? I do like and appreciate that they went a little like a republic or a democratic thing, like president-elect, maybe.
Yeah.
Rogan's like, get that democratic shit out of here. And then they're talking about the legalities of it and everything, because like we haven't heard them say anything necessarily about what should be done with their assets or what should be done in terms of managing the city. As of right now, all we got was them just talking about what we're gonna call this bitch. And so, you know, I do appreciate that they're like, look, the titles matter. Titles matter. And they're like, maybe first citizen or something else. Like, I don't know. Monza, what do you think? She's like, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah. So it was Rubine or Rubine. It was Scavier and Grullo, right?
Yeah.
Rubine is the actual citizen, but Scavier and Grullo are actual two merchants. Scavier is a lady, and Grullo is a man. Other than that, what any kind of differences or things you want to highlight about these three?
We don't really see much of their characters at the moment. They're all. It seems like Grullo's the ringleader. The other two are a little bit more whiny and like in the back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I would like to let the audience know that I voted for spotlighting the proletariat worker that died. But
No, don't give me that.
Apparently, apparently the boys are they're classist. They're like,
You love the oligarchy. You know it.
Listen, first of all, I didn't recommend them. That was you. So who loves them really?
Listen, you're the most ridiculous American I've ever met in my life, okay? And I love you for it. But
Ridiculous
don't pretend like you don't
American.
love oligarchs. Like, these guys are capitalist scum.
Nothing wrong with being a capitalist, baby. Make that money.
See, the truth comes out.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Make something out of your lives, goddammit. Anyway. Yeah, I'm good on that in terms of the character spot. Don't really have much else to add about those three. Boys, do you?
No, I think that's good enough for these three. We'll see more of them later, but
Yeah.
there's more important things to talk about later.
And we'll see more of Morveer's attempts to assassinate Monza. Okay. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means a lot to us.
Join us next week as we cover preparation, rules of war, and One Nation.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media, and we have a website. It's circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from. And please make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
I know what I am.